Negroholism or Negroholic. Basically, to me, when I thought of that, that's in reference to those of us who still think that we are Negroes or black. We're obsessed with that. Even though if we really analyze it, we know it's destructive, just like alcoholism. An alcoholic essentially doesn't really know that she or he is destroying themselves by drinking an excess of alcohol. Or an alcoholic is one who knows that it's destroying them, but doesn't really care. Perhaps because they feel guilt or shame. It's a form of self-medication. Many counselors, psychologists will tell you. And so the Negroholic, to me, was someone who's still obsessing over some guilt or shame about being a Negro or black. And they engage in self-destructive activities. Killing other brothers or sisters for a pair of sneakers or for an insult, a verbal insult. Bringing poison into the community because they're saying, I got to get mine and you got to get yours, and no sense of the danger or destruction that you're bringing about to that community. Going back to one of the Africa-centered psychologists, Dr. Naim Akbar, when he talks about alien self disorder and anti-self disorder, and he emphasizes that anti-self is the destruction of oneself or one's community in the ways I just expressed. So my reference to this, like I said, this Negroholism, or like I used to say when I was teaching at WVU, that we have many Negroholics and we need to go into a recovery system. And the recovery system is to learn to love ourselves, learn to love instead of hate, and to learn to love our true selves, and then learn about the system of oppression that functions around us. And the Negroholic is one who either doesn't see it yet and continues to engage in pathological or self-destructive behavior, or does see it, but still feels they're unworthy. There's the tragedy again. They're unworthy of doing anything to change it, just because it's too hard or they don't value themselves. And there's again, going back to that reference to Othello and the tragic figure. All that, of course, is interconnected to that same argument. How do you encourage self-love? By teaching about ourselves, right? Teaching us who we are in fact, not in fiction. Teaching us, I don't particularly care whether one's focus is on just Moorish history or if one's focus is on Nile Valley civilization. Either one can result in having a renewed sense of value in what it is to look as we do, to look like people of predominant African ancestry. I will say that the value of recognizing the Moorish historical contribution or legacy is it's closer to the present. And it also, because of the things that I've talked about in terms of nationality and the law, that's more relevant too. And again, there's the brilliance of Noble Drew Ali. How did this man know this between 1913 and 1929? America had no Negroes, only oppressed and amnesiatic Moors. Essentially, this goes back to looking at the world from a Moorish perspective. Negroes were Moors who'd been subjugated and turned into property or Negroes as a result of the ASCIENTO, and because they didn't have access to authorities to be able to free themselves, or because they didn't know. This goes back again to this issue of understanding the chaos of what's going on in the 18th and 19th centuries. African kingdoms are fighting each other. It'd been going on, of course, since the time of the Portuguese arrival in the 15th century. This culminates then in different kingdoms selling their prisoners of war to other, either other kingdoms, and then when Europeans, came and required, they would sell them to Europeans along the coast. Part of the so-called triangular trade, right? The Asiento, the Spanish-controlled system of the enslavement, primarily of Africans. The idea of flipping the history of so-called Black America or Negro America around and saying, we're talking about Africans or Moors who were simply subjugated and oppressed and suffering from amnesia, right? So if you call yourself a Negro and you don't see any value in yourself and you believe in the inherent superiority of this new system that you're in, I'm talking about in the context from the 18th through the 20th centuries, I dare say even into the 21st century, then that means you don't see the value of who you are, which means you don't know who you are, which means you don't know your history, which means you have amnesia. The amnesia can be educationally imposed. It can be socially imposed. So that amnesia, that inability to remember anything, results in you only knowing what others have told you. So someone says, you're the one who owes me money. When you're suffering money, how much did I owe you? You owe me $2 million. Oh man, do I owe him Yeah, you owe him $2 million. In other words, if the larger society is then complicit in saying you are a Negro, for the most part, complicit, you go along with that because you don't know any better. If you know better, then presumably you'll do better, and doing better means you will start to get out from under the term Negro. And I'll say again, and Black as well, because Black is simply the English word for Negro, and as I said earlier, Moor is not synonymous with Black or Negro.